This week on the Jock and Nerd podcast, how important is historical accuracy in movies? Can a Hollywood movie get the history right and still make it entertaining? Does history even matter if the movie is amazing? We discuss and debate these questions, plus a listener-sponsored review of the 2014 movie Kingsmen, The Secret Service, listener comments, and a whole bunch more, all in this edition of the Jock and Nerd Weekly for Friday, May 8th, 2020.
This is Norm MacDonald, and you're listening to the, hang on, I got it here. It says, the Jock and Nerd Podcast, known for their series of gay erotica found on Amazon, No? That's not that? Oh. Well, I fucked that up, I guess.
Check. Check one. All right. This is really fans out there. Let's give it up. Be talking, be nerded. Be funny, disturbing. Be talking, be nerded. Be spoiler alert. Oh yeah. Be talking, be nerded. Be funny, disturbing. Oh yeah. Be talking, be nerded. Be spoiler alert.
Hey, what's up? What's good, listener? How you doing? Thanks for tuning in, and welcome to the Jock and Nerd Podcast, where we give you comic book and superhero TV and movie news, reviews, and whatever we choose. Jock and Nerd. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the Jock.
He's the nerd.
And joining us, of course, the premier podcasting puppet. We call him Rug Boy, who promised me he was going to do this whole show with a British accent.
Oh, shit.
Right, Rugs?
What?
Cheerios.
No, you just can't name cereals.
Honey bunches of oats.
Oh, you're just going to go naming cereals.
I just can't do that.
No, you can't do that. No, I'm
Spit spot.
I was trying to get you to say the line, "Are you fucking taking a piss?" Like in a British.
Are you taking a piss?
There you go. There. That's it.
That sound British?
No, but
No.
It sounded like a puppet talking about taking a piss.
No, I know how to do that.
How you guys doing? 2020 now has added murder hornets. Did I see this right?
That's bullshit.
Right? What?
It's not even a thing.
That's not a thing?
No.
What do you mean? They're the hornets, they sting you, and then you die.
They're Asian hornets, and they're not even here. There's like maybe one here.
Oh, there's only the one. His name is
There's only
Dave.
the one. They only found like a couple. Like, it's not like a lot. Like, how are they going to get here?
What? That's what I was wondering. I was like, how?
They don't fly over the
No.
world. No, someone had to bring them here.
Someone brought
Yeah,
him.
like a shipping container?
They I mean, they could kill you, but it's more that they'll take out the honeybee population.
I heard that they go in and they
Invasive
just
species.
ravage where the bees live.
Right.
Like,
I read something actually interesting. Like the bees where they're from have like a natural defense against them, where they vibrate themselves so much that they raise the temperature around them and basically explode them.
Okay.
But the honeybees here obviously can't do that. They don't have that adaptation.
That tickles. Yeah, they're on the verge of extinction as it is. They don't need another thing coming after them. It's just like 2020 is trying really hard to get in the history books. Like it wasn't enough global pandemic 2020. No, I'm going to add murder hornets just in case you guys don't fucking remember this year. Now we will. Yeah. All right, let's get started, you bastards.
The Jock and Nerd Podcast.
Oh, we're doing something a little different, listener. Don't freak out. We're going to bypass the news this week.
Fuck the news.
Yeah,
It's the same shit.
It's
Fuck that show.
It's not going anywhere.
You know what's happening.
It's the same shit going on. It'll be there next week.
Something got canceled. Something's been postponed.
Something got released. Something got announced. Yes, blah, blah, blah. We'll get there
There's
next
no real
week.
movie news.
Yes.
There's no movies coming out.
Nothing is coming out.
No one's making anything. No one's showing up to work to film anything.
Nope, no, nothing has started up yet. So this week.
Wait.
Yeah?
Actually,
what started?
Real quick.
Yeah.
There is some. Did you see that Spike Lee is going to release something on Netflix?
Yes, I'm very excited.
Defy Bloods or something like
Yeah,
that?
a Spike Lee Vietnam Netflix movie.
Oh, shit.
I'm in. I'm so in. Later this month, I think it's coming out.
Yeah.
I'll check that out, probably.
Fuck yeah.
Woke Anthony is now super into that.
Oh,
so.
I'm sure you are, and you've been checking out some Spike Lee movies, so you got the background and the context. Look, this is where all the
Woke Anthony came here today.
Yes.
He's here today. Okay.
Woke cinephile Anthony is here today.
Oh,
That's actually a great segue into our topic for the first half of the show, Anthony, that was prompted by you. So this is great because I didn't get to do any work. I'm just going to turn it over. Take over, Anthony.
Oh, I would say it's prompted by me, but also prompted by listening to not only our listeners, but Ruggs Boys reviews on Patreon about how he reviews movies.
Wow.
So the first time this came to my mind, though, was when I was watching The Hurt Locker. I watched it, and then I watched some videos after, and there was a bunch of like bomb squad people that were like, "This is bullshit." So I mentioned that on my review, and Seth Morgan messaged me, and he mentioned that he had picked Braveheart for me to review, and it's one of his favorites, and that he had mentioned just give it a chance. Don't necessarily look at the historical accuracy of the film. Just watch the film for what it is, because it's not a documentary. So I was like, okay, yeah, I get that. And then I watched the film, and then I also watched afterwards, after I reviewed it, how historically inaccurate it is. And then listening to Rug Boy's take on movies, he had mentioned that and you can interrupt me if I'm wrong on this, he had mentioned that he likes movies that are based on true stories or on history, because you get to learn things, and you get to basically see the stories kind of written for you. What else is there, Ruggs, that you had mentioned about that?
Well, basically what I said is that real life doesn't follow a Hollywood conventions.
Right.
That's yeah.
And if they do a movie correctly, which not a lot of them do, which you're probably going to point that out here, is that they just Hollywoodize everything. They put like conventional Hollywood fucking bullshit into movies. So when they're able to do a movie that's accurate somewhat, it's interesting, because what happens in life is more interesting and it's something that somebody can write. Sometimes, a lot of the times.
Off the top of my head, I couldn't remember the exact wording, but there you go.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I was like, man, there's a bunch of like conflicting stuff here, because like I enjoy some of these movies, but then I realize that they're not historically accurate, and I'm thinking to myself, should I let this affect me?
Right.
Or should I just be like, no, it's Hollywood? I looked at a bunch of movies. The movies that came to mind for me were The Hurt Locker that I recently saw, Braveheart, Argo, things like that, Titanic. There's a bunch of different movies.
Yeah.
But I posed it to the nation, what are your thoughts on when films take liberties with adapting history and true stories? Does it ruin your enjoyment of the film? Are you able to still be entertained because it's a movie and not a documentary? And what's taking it too far, making a movie too Hollywood? So I thought it'd be an interesting discussion between us on what's too far, does it ruin, all those things. So
that's a great question, how important the historical accuracy is in films, and can a movie make the history right and still be entertaining and a piece of art? Or does the history even matter when it goes the other way, when they twist things and embellish something that was real to make it more entertaining? I can see both sides of the argument, but I think the most important thing is if it intrigues you to learn more once you walk away from it, I think the movie wins, it succeeds. But there are some for like history buffs, and I'll read some of the comments that are just so glaringly obviously wrong, and it just doesn't make sense. So, and then again, do the filmmakers have a responsibility? How do you balance,
Well, I think that at the end of the day, it's all about how you frame it, right? So this general thing that they put on every movie based on a true story, that's such a vague, thing. It's just like, it doesn't mean anything. Why even put it there? I think if you put something that says like this is a fictionalized account of an actual event or something like that, or
inspired by true events.
This is inspired by something, but things have been changed. At least that up front. But when they just kind of put this blanket statement there that it's based on true events, or it's Freddie Mercury's biography pick.
Yeah.
You assume that they've done at least some of their homework. You assume that they're doing. So I think that the idea of these things, they're marketed as to entice people because, you're going to hear the real story, the true story. And we all know kind of now, especially if you have a brain cell or two, that this shit is almost never accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But what I also was saying is that the fact that the germs of these stories based on real life is probably more interesting than when somebody can think up a lot of the times if they're doing like textbook Hollywood script writing.
That's a good point, because when you said that, I thought of the movie Argo, which I'd seen, which the plot for that, and if you read it, a lot of it's inaccurate, but the basic premise of the story is so unbelievable that you actually wouldn't think, you would think even Hollywood would reject that. Like, they used a movie to rescue people.
Yeah, a fake.
Wait till
movie.
you watch Wag the Dog. It's based on true things, but it's based off something.
I'm gonna play this.
Spoiler alert.
We may spoil some things, but Argo is a great example of the crazy concept. Did happen, but Anthony, as you probably figured out, that third act was nothing like what actually happened in history.
Right. And they really made it an American type film, when it was actually more of the Canadians that.
Right, the Canadians
engineered all that stuff.
But had they done it originally like it happens, it would have been a very boring third act of a movie.
I think just to take one step back, I think there's like, I thought of this, and maybe you guys can add more, but I thought of like 3 different types of ways to tell stories based on true stories. So there's like the movies that are like based on a true story, right? Like a historical thing, or like some sort of event. There's
like
those
Pearl
movies.
Harbor or something.
Right, Pearl Harbor, or like
World Wars,
JFK, or Argo, or Braveheart, right?
Yeah.
Then there's like the movies that are period pieces. So they're using the period, but it's not necessarily, they're telling a story that might not have happened, but they're just using the period as a setting. So like a 12 Years a Slave, or a Gladiator, you know, or Hotel Rwanda, like Saving Private Ryan. Right. And then there's a third one that I thought of, which is like stories that are like embellishing, like openly embellishing the truth. Like a 300 for me.
Yes.
That's obviously like an that's not what happened. Yeah. Or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's not what happened.
Right.
It's just a fun take on what the history is. So I think those are like the 3 categories.
That's great. That second one is huge. There's a lot of leeway in that. For example, Gladiator does have a lot of historical inaccuracies, but the period, the time, you really get a sense of the Roman Colosseum and what it was like, when that was the big game in town, and that's what everybody did. But it's not a true story. Then you have Braveheart, on the other hand, that's telling you this is all a true story. And oh boy, does that movie have many, 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 many incorrect things in service of telling an exciting story. Now, I don't know. Can you forgive Mel Gibson, who's crazy anyways? Also, we got to remember history written by the victors. So
I know Englishmen that hate that movie.
Yes. And yes, a lot of other people.
Yes. If you're English, you probably hate Braveheart.
Because it downplayed Robert the Bruce, correct? Right?
Yeah.
It also made the English to be just the most vile human beings.
Right.
The world.
They were just straight up villains. And William Wallace was the hero. So
that movie gets a lot wrong, actually, when if you look at anything. But I mean, that being said,
but the battles,
I was entertained by the movie.
Like when you do something about King Arthur, there's so little to go off
That's
of.
the thing. How do you actually know any of this happened?
Like you have license to make shit up because you don't have anything.
Yeah.
But when you know the history and then you screw up, you got to be like expecting some kind of backlash, right? Or no? What do you think?
I think so. I mean, I was thinking about this. I was like, when you say it's based on a true story, you kind of actually carry a burden of telling a true story, and you open yourself up, I think, to a lot of criticism when you don't tell it as accurate as possible, because obviously it's not going to be 100% accurate, but I think Jimmy McPike mentioned this, but you kind of are almost telling the culture, the media at the time, almost like when we're talking about like Spider-Man, right? Like if you tell an inaccurate Spider-Man story, the whole world is going to think this is how Spider-Man's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, don't do the research to be like, okay, this movie happened. That's really not what happened. They'll just take the movie for what it's worth, especially if it's a successful movie, and be like, that's history. That's how it happened.
Well, it was based on a true story, it said.
Right.
So the filmmaker has a responsibility if he is leading.
I think
based on a true story.
I think if you use the words based on a true story and you do something that is like you're in name, or you're using the actual person in your story, you have to at least, I think, there's a ratio here somewhere. I'm going to say about like 65 to 70% accurate. Then you got 30% to fuck around with. And then I would say that's a pretty good, most movies don't even get 50% right. They're usually getting like 30% if they're lucky.
I like the ratio aspect of like you have to get, because you can't make everything perfect, but Hollywood needs to Hollywood some stuff, because sometimes the ending of a story is just not all that exciting.
Yeah, you have to tie things together. Maybe you have to edit things out. I understand that. I said that in my thing. Like, they have to sometimes do shit like that, and I understand that. But like, I think that you have a responsibility if you put based on a true story, or that you're doing something that everybody knows, like JFK. Everybody knows who JFK is. You have some kind of fucking responsibility to at least make it somewhat.
Well, there's a lot of made up conversations in that movie also, but it's super entertaining. But yeah, that one would fall not in the,
maybe like the minutia you don't have to worry about, like the conversations.
Yeah, the ratio is off. I don't think it has a high enough
like,
ratio.
but what happens has to have happened.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's one of the things that, like, you can plot out things, like, and say, okay, well, we all know the story of Abraham Lincoln. He goes to the theater, he gets his brains blown out. I don't even know that that's true. I don't know.
Right.
Is it true? But like, so the things happen correctly. What he says to his wife, we don't know if that's true, but like, at least the things happen correctly. Like, and the responses are correct. And so like, you can do it. I don't know why, I feel like what Hollywood does all the time is it's so looking for ideas, and sometimes the best ideas are in reality. They'll just pluck the idea they think is interesting, and they just fucking use that, and then they strip everything else away. I'm like, well, if you're going to take that, like, take some more. Like, at least give that person credit, or that person's life some meaning by actually exploring that person and not just making up your own character and you're using that story. You know what I mean? I feel like if you're going to tell the story of my life and just replace me with another fuck, I think that's fucking douchey.
Yeah.
You know?
Should we read the comments and then react to them, or do you want to go over some of this stuff you have?
Let's go over the comments, because I wanted to say you did throw this out to the nation listener.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. Do historical films, should they be accurate? Join the Facebook group Jock and Nerd Nation. It's a closed group for our listeners, but we can have some of these comments can help us shape the conversation.
Right. Ruggs, what were you going to say?
I was like, well, how do you feel about it? Like, these films that you've seen, you feel like that you can't, like, if you could just watch them and not give a shit if it's accurate or not.
Yeah.
Does that help you enjoy the movie, or did you think about that before, or like, is that something that you're thinking about now?
In the moment, I'm like, I'm enjoying the movie. It does kind of, when I watch some stuff and it's like, oh, this was wrong. Oh, this was wrong. Oh, this was wrong. It takes away like my enjoyment of the film, because I think part of the investment for a lot of people is that it's based on a true story. So you're like, this really happened. This is not just made up in someone's head.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
It gives it more like weight, right?
Yes. And then it's like finding out Santa Claus isn't real. You're like, oh, fuck. What? Oh, my God.
Like, when you see Saving Private Ryan, like, none of those characters are real. Right? Because they're not anybody famous, and it doesn't say it's based on a true story, I don't think. Does it? I don't even know.
No, I don't think so.
But I don't remember it saying that. But, like, it doesn't say, okay, this happened. Or 1917, I don't think says it's based on a true story, does it?
No, it's just shaped after, like, stuff in that war, but yeah.
So you can kind of be like, all right, they're not telling a person's story. They're not using a person's story. They're not using a person's life and then just ripping the soul out of it so they can make money off of it because it's a cool idea. And there's something to that someone just like thought of a story and put it in that period, and then you can enjoy everything kind of like in a pure way. It doesn't feel dirty.
Some of it, like the other Spielberg end of that is you have Schindler's List, which I believe is based on a true story. I believe Oscar Schindler was a person, and that, how can you verify that everything went down that way, but you bought it? Also, I thought Glory is an amazing film of the Black Battalion in the Civil War, which I believe is also based on a true story. Those two are entertaining, and I think they get the history right. They're good examples of that.
Let's read a couple of these comments, and then if we have reactions, I think that'll help too.
So
John Bellotti Jr.
Yeah.
First off, of course, Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, is pure fiction, and I hated it for that.
There you go.
Yeah, you go.
There you go.
You think you watched Bruce Lee's life, and you're like, oh, this is like fucking 20% of it is okay, and then the rest of it is garbage.
He goes, that was a case of Too Hollywood, a film like Ali, which, by the way, I thought was really boring as a kid, a film like Ali went through great pains to recreate the life of Ali. Same with Zodiac. So that was my comment, by the way, on Ali.
Zodiac is interesting because the Zodiac gets it right, where you have its counterpart, Dirty Harry, with Clint Eastwood, he was also hunting down the Zodiac guy, and that's completely just like Hollywood exaggerated for the sake. So there's certain sets of movies that do historical pieces better. Chaz Hubbard said, if you're going to market your movie based on the events of or the story of, you should try to stick to the facts as much as possible. If it's a compelling enough story to want to make a movie out of it, the real events are probably plenty interesting and don't need the writer to add fictional side plots. But in a movie like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I don't expect accuracy, and kind of enjoyed Tarantino messing with a well-known event.
Well, the name is Once Upon a Time.
In history.
You know?
Yeah, he's telling a story.
But it's so funny. That movie, Once Upon a Time, caused so much uproar because he played around with Bruce Lee.
Yes, they didn't like the Bruce Lee, just like Bellotti mentioned.
But he's not making a biopic.
Right.
And he loves to play around with history, just like he did with Hitler in the other movie. What's that movie?
Yeah.
Inglourious Basterds.
Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. You don't go to fucking see Jojo Rabbit and go, that's not an accurate portrayal of Hitler.
That's not what
like,
Hitler
because
was
you're
like.
portraying
Yes.
a historical character in a movie, as long as you don't have the words based on a true story,
Yeah.
and you kind of know that this is not actually what he did or what he said or whatever. Like, it's fine. You're just using something from history and you're using it to effect. It's just when you use based on a true story, I think that's the culprit here.
Then it's like,
That's really
okay,
is.
then this shit better be real.
That goes in line. You can read Ronald Hans's after, but I'll read Benjamin Wesley Cranford. Based on a true story is misleading, and I don't want real life necessarily in a film, but I get annoyed that I'm sure what happened and what they made up. That being said, though, this is really poorly written.
Good luck.
Good
luck to getting through
good
this.
that the stories get told. I just would like them to stick to the facts. I don't mind shit like Julia Roberts playing Erin because I know the real person wasn't a bombshell, and war movies are usually okay because the basic facts don't change. It's when they do a movie about a famous person and make shit up to paint that person in a certain fictitious light to suit a script or viewpoint that annoys me.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
He was talking about Erin Brockovich, where, she didn't look like that, but that whole story was exactly what happened, and that's an amazing movie. Ron Hans has some good points. He says, it depends on what I am watching. Thinking about movies like Pearl Harbor, while I didn't mind the action aspect of that movie, everything else about it was unwatchable. But then thinking about movies like Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down, 13 Hours, and Argo, I am personally not looking for 100% historically accurate movies. What I am looking for is something that is going to be entertaining and will make me curious about the subject. If it is something that I'm not very knowledgeable in, such as Argo, Aviator, or Blow, I go and start looking into the story and finding out more. If a movie can do that, for me, it has done its job. Nobody should be looking for 100% historically accurate movies from Hollywood unless Daniel Day-Lewis is the star of it. Playing an accurate Lincoln, yes. That also reminds me of Catch Me If You Can, the story of Frank Abagnale, the con man from Spielberg with Tom Hanks. That, I don't know how much they embellished, but I'm just going to believe that's what happened.
You know, Pearl Harbor is a funny movie because they got a lot of stuff right in terms of like what happened, but then they added this story that no one gave a fuck about.
Yeah,
with that three-way love triangle.
A fucking romance into the thing. A better movie that keeps coming up on the best historical movies list is from 1970 called Tora, 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 and apparently still the most like
accurate Pearl Harbor movie.
Accurate Pearl Harbor movie to date. Definitely not Pearl Harbor. That's for fucking sure.
I would love to read Jimmy McPike.
You have to, because McPike, if the listener doesn't know, Jim McPike is he's a history buff. He's gone to school for history. He's like a professor. He's published. Dude is super smart about his history.
He's also been on the spin-off show if you want to check that out.
And he was our intern on the convention shows.
That's right. So he comes off pretty aggressively, but speaking as someone who knows what the fuck they're talking about, I have some strong feelings on this subject. Firstly, it's impossible to make a movie that's both 100% accurate and engaging cinema.
We all know that.
Yep. What you should be looking for is something that has both a high degree of historical authenticity, accurate translation of the time and figures presented, and verisimilitude, attention to detail for the purpose of immersion. Well, using big words there.
He's good.
Think Saving Private Ryan for a superb example of balancing respect for the subject matter and artistic license. See Braveheart for an example of a movie that does neither well, gets basic details wrong, misrepresents character motivation, etc. The problem with bad examples, especially ones like Braveheart that position themselves as being historical, is that they poison the public discourse on the subject. People go on to hold inaccurate and often toxic understandings of historical events that hold us back as a society and are antithetical to the very concept of studying history. 300 is the most relevant example as it misrepresents a historical event on almost every level, and understand a lot of it was deliberate stylization for on-screen effect, and plays into a narrative that is used for justification for hate crimes to this day. That's not okay.
Damn.
Oh, shit.
Okay, so there's a lot of good discussion points here.
And then we'll get to the Braveheart stuff in a second.
Wait. Can I just ask what the hate crimes in 300 is for?
It makes the Arabs? The Persians.
Oh.
It makes the Persians look to be like devils, basically, like monsters. Like when there's. I mean, I don't completely like. I'm not on completely on board with it. When the Persians
I don't know. I think that's a little bit of a strat. I mean, look, 300 is what you're watching is completely not possible.
Right.
There's no way that you think that this is real.
That's why I put 300 in the category of like a fantastical.
I mean,
history.
There was a battle at Thermopylae, but they didn't call it that. They might have written based on a true story, though.
I think there was we'd have to, he probably would know, I think what he's pointing to is how they make the Persians out to be like these absolute monsters.
Yeah. So that comment about this, we brought it up before, and there it is that the problem with these movies is they poison the public discourse on the subject. If I'm going to play devil's advocate, you could say that movies aren't necessarily a historical document, much like a documentary.
Well, what responsibility do movies have is the question.
They have a responsibility to be entertaining.
Once you throw on that, based on a true story.
I think that yes, that is a shackle. You're throwing that, and you're shackling yourself to something that's true. And it's either if you write based on a true story, or you're doing a movie about you're using a person in the title of your movie, unless you're like doing Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter,
right?
Where we're like, okay, in the title, I know it's not true unless some idiot's like, he really fought vampires?
Somebody thought that. There's definitely a dude out there who still thinks that.
Like if you're doing Abraham Lincoln and and all of a sudden he's killing vampires and like you don't really show everybody that you're doing this as a joke.
In the Spielberg's Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis, it showed him as kind of a different version of Lincoln that not a lot of people knew he was like that personally, but was supposedly accurate.
Well, that's interesting because history, like the history books will tell Lincoln as one. Like,
right.
When you learn history as a kid, you only learn broad strokes of people's character.
From one publisher that supplies books to your school.
You never really get like the in-depth stuff that we do now. Where
scholars get
yeah. So should I finish off the Jimmy McPike stuff?
Well, but I want to add. We're gonna segue with this because I wanted to ask you. Now you watched Argo, you watched Braveheart. Did finding out that those movies were wildly historically accurate hurt your entertainment of the movie?
Also, another one to throw in there is actually Social Network, which is actually pretty inaccurate.
Is it, man? Eisenberg was a great.
There is the stuff, but like Eisenberg is not that obtuse. They made out the Napster guy to be just complete rapist, which is not.
I mean, the real life dude is way more awkward than Jesse Eisenberg was even playing, probably.
No, you're talking about
what's his name?
Zuckerberg?
Yes.
Zuckerberg's if you listen to any of his interviews, he's like a college kid.
I think he's a robot.
But he's not that guy.
Yeah.
So the Social Network is even
great movie though. Fuck.
It's I don't know. Like as I said earlier, it does kind of like feel like, oh man, really? We didn't get this one right either. Fuck.
I mean, Argo is tense and exciting, and it has you. And the Braveheart, the battle scenes are incredible. Like you mentioned in a review, like that's not CGI. That's fields of people choreographing a fucking battle, and it probably looked like that.
Did they need to make it called Braveheart?
I don't know.
I mean, did they need to make it William Wallace's story?
Well, let's get to William Wallace. Anthony, Jimmy McPike broke down all the ways that the movie is historically inaccurate. Why don't we go? You will go back and forth. You do the first one.
Number one, there's no evidence that to prima nocta being a thing, much less Edward I instituting it in Scotland.
That's the thing where you get to do whatever you want to a place.
When the nobles of one country get first dibs on
Get to
anyone
just
that gets married.
rape or whatever they want.
Yeah.
And, number 2, the dress of Wallace's soldiers, belted plaid and blue face paint, is flat out wrong. The wearing of kilts didn't begin for centuries after the First War of Scottish independence, and the woad face paint was from pre-Roman times, and how widespread the practice was is a matter of debate. Also, Wallace was from the lowlands, so he wouldn't have worn a kilt regardless. This is probably like the biggest criticism this movie gets, right? Anthony, did you see?
About the kilts?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I saw that. That's a thing. These next couple are pretty funny.
But so basically, they wouldn't have been wearing kilts at all, right?
They wouldn't have been wearing kilts. They wouldn't have had. They never wore the blue face paint. That's not
okay.
They just took things from. They would be like
it's Scottish. We gotta have kilts.
It would be like if they took things like those white like wigs from Americans, and they threw those on our like soldiers of now.
Yes.
And then had them like paying bagpipes, but then also had them the bagpipes be like camo.
The George Washington wigs, yes, that'd be great.
I think that's kind of like how
I would love to see that.
That'd be great. The Battle of Stirling Bridge, the one with the freedom speech, prominently featured gasp a bridge. This was crucial to how the battle played out as it mitigated the English cavalry advantage.
Well, there was no bridge at all.
There was no bridge.
He was just like on a hill in the middle.
They were in a
field.
They were in a field. This is pretty funny. The big thing that William Wallace did in the movie is he goes, you take you come around and you flank them. You flank their archers. So you just like make it look like you're running away and just flank their archers. And then I watched a video and I was like, this idea, like any general that would have fallen for this would have been just a complete moron. Like, oh, they're running away. Yeah. They're not going to flank me by doing this.
Fucking oldest trick in the book.
4 is great if you want to read that.
Isabella of France was 9 during the events of the movie. It's gross they aged her up for a sex scene.
Oh, shit.
Also, Edward II was bi and liked his wife just fine. People have taken same-sex lovers throughout history, and it only went unspoken of starting in the Victorian era. And in your review, Anthony, you mentioned that I forgot there was...
I want to... Hold on
okay.
1 second.
Yeah.
We still have people that are fucking... can't get with this idea with people having same-sex lovers. Like now.
Yeah.
So you're telling me in the Victorian era, it was just like, yeah.
Oh, dude, I think they
No, I don't believe that.
No, I think they were.
I think that if you were royalty, do whatever the fuck you want.
But
there's people that didn't think it was like. I don't think.
Think about the gay French king, like the stereotype of a gay French king from back in the day. Like it was absolutely all out in the open back then.
Oh yeah, they didn't give a shit about it, but I didn't think that everyone was just like applauding it. I think that it was just you're royalty. Do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, that's what they do.
You don't have to tell it. You don't have to worry. Apologize for anything you do.
There is like an underlying thing on the internet where that Mel Gibson is homophobic.
Oh,
and that he was playing up that Edward was gay and that like he was like because of this.
That. Yeah.
You know, I actually don't buy that he was doing that. I think he was playing up that the guy was gay, but there's a scene where he throws out his lover throughout the window, and it was like someone was like, this could be interpreted as like a hate crime. I think he just does it. The king, long shorts, just does it because he's just like showing, like throwing him as an example. Like, fuck you. This is like, this guy's inept. This is what you need to be. You need to be a tough guy.
Well, and I also read, you know how like the girl dies in the beginning, and that throws him into the thing that like that was all. There's no evidence of him. Beating a girl.
Him fucking the girl that's been aged up from 9.
Yeah,
is
that's crazy.
Pretty amusing.
And then the last one, Anthony.
Yeah, Robert the Bruce, who's the good guy, in all likelihood didn't fight for the English at Falkirk, the one Wallace loses. He isn't listed on the roll of nobles in the English record that were present at the battle. He did make a separate peace at one point, which was a dick move, but he still succeeded Wallace as the Guardian of Scotland.
Yeah, he finishes saying, I greatly dislike this movie. And I asked him, Jimmy, does this movie get anything right? And he answered, William Wallace was, in fact, Scottish. It's about the only thing the fucking movie gets right. Great breakdown, Jim. Thanks for sending that in. So from you guys, now he's given us some great criteria for a successful historic film. What are some other examples that you think do that? Like I mentioned, Glory. I think of like Apollo 13 is.
I actually read they got a lot of the math right in that movie.
Yeah, they talked to a lot of scientists. I love Gandhi. When I first saw Gandhi, I was like, holy shit, I had no idea about this guy.
Wasn't he sleeping in beds with young girls in that one?
He probably was. Which was the style at the time.
Yeah.
But then
Naked.
Yeah. What other examples can you think of? There's a movie called Gettysburg from 1993 that's apparently 4.5 hours long.
Oh, shit.
Oh God.
And like super, super accurate as to the Battle of Gettysburg. So
I think it's easier if I was going to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to try to tell a story within a period
Yeah.
rather than just try to tell the true story.
yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that there's so many.
I think you open yourself up more criticism. Sorry.
This is what I think, and I've watched so many documentaries where the impetus is to try and tell the real story as much as possible, and I find those fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't the movie be fascinating? Like, why wouldn't a dramatization of that be fascinating?
Yeah, that's true.
So there was plenty of, like, you were watching the Michael Jordan thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Like,
Yeah.
that's fucking riveting, right? To you, I haven't watched it, but from what you've said,
Yeah, I love
it's
it,
riveting. So why would they change it if they made a movie? They would, obviously, because it's fucking Hollywood's thing, but they don't have to.
Do you think it's just like writers that are just like, let me just throw my 2 cents in here and make this even
Yes.
better?
They're like, this isn't exciting.
I think that when you have a documentary, especially if you have a series, you have more time, you can like stretch things out a little bit. But if you have a simple enough story that's not that complex, why not? Like, I mean, do like the thing where like you're trying to at least get 70% of it right. I think that would be a nice change of pace.
Did anybody think like Forrest Gump was a fucking historical piece? Like,
No, that would fall into my category of playing with history.
yes, the second category, absolutely.
Right. The third one, actually.
Oh, the third one.
Yes.
Yeah. No, this list is, I'll put a link of this in the show notes because it brings up some interesting points. It tells you movies that got it right and movies that got it wrong. We just mentioned Tora, and Pearl Harbor. Sometimes time doesn't help. There's a movie from 1958 called A Night to Remember about the sinking of the Titanic. And apparently they used the original blueprints for the ship. They hired one of the surviving officers to work as a technical advisor. The only thing they didn't know when they made that movie is that the ship broke in two when it sank, but it's still more accurate than James Cameron's Titanic.
I think the one of the last thing on my mind is like Braveheart, for instance. I still can enjoy the movie because I can see like the filmmaking there and like some of the good scenes and acting. I think the problem is most people take media for what it is, or don't take it for what it is. They think it's actually the truth, and they don't go out and actually like use a movie and then go, okay, what really happened, and look it up. So I think that's the problem, is that like based on a true story or movies that are told in a certain time period, most people won't just take the time to look up what really happened. They'll just take that as history.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that bothers me is that if something's interesting, and I feel like real life is interesting, and there's so many things in history that are very interesting, that you don't need to change things if you don't really have to. And I think that that's just a Hollywood sickness of embellishment, and that they think they could make it better if we do this. And it's just one of these things that they fall into these formulas that we have to have a romance in this movie. We have to have this tied up, and this character has to be tied to that character. So it's poetic and this and that. And I feel like that becomes a trap. And that's why we have so much stale bullshit when we go to the movies now. And it's just, this has been happening since the beginning of time, but we haven't seemed to learn or evolve as filmmakers or as people who the audience to be smarter and to want more and to actually, we want to be entertained. I think the thing is that we want to be entertained so much that we're willing to just give up everything else. That also would probably enrich us, in a lot of ways. So I feel like they could, maybe pump the brakes a little bit on using this fucking script writing formulas and just let's just fucking explore some shit every once in a while.
I mean, Anthony, I do exactly what you just said. Is if it's an entertaining movie, I will leave. I'll be like, well, that's the story. I don't need to know anymore.
Yeah,
and
that's the problem.
Yeah, and it does eventually will poison your brain if you continue thinking that way and don't dig for the truth. Ultimately, it comes down to the viewer. This article has a great couple of final lines that I'll throw in there. They say at the end of the day, or rather at the end of the movie, it all comes down to each individual audience member and knowing that a movie can simply be a great story or a great representation of history in art, and that both of those movies can be enjoyed, or maybe historical films are just the natural process of turning truth into myth and myth into legend. And I see that also happening with the movies that get it right. You know, like your Glories and your Schindler's List. These guys become legends, and you hope that they're represented accurately. I don't know. I can enjoy a good history movie, even if it's wildly inaccurate, I guess.
I mean, just something that came to mind while you were talking about that is like stories have been embellished forever, right?
Yeah.
Like even like movies do it, but not everything in the Bible probably happened the way it happened, and it's written in the Bible.
I don't think anything of it.
Well, yeah,
Right? See,
yeah.
there you
Where's
go.
the
Like,
evidence?
right. Or but I'm sure there's some David and David and the Giant?
Yeah.
Goliath.
Yeah.
David and Goliath.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there was a tall person that probably got his ass kicked by a small person,
Yeah.
but was he 9 feet tall?
Yeah.
Probably not. Right.
Well, yeah.
Like stories. I think this is just human nature to embellish things.
Yeah. It's like playing telephone. Like the story never ends up the same at the end because
Right.
Well, I think that this is the difference. I think over time, we only had an oral way of translating things.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then we had books. And then you always had to trust the author. But now, in this age, I mean, and this is like really fucked up because we can't even trust video now.
Yes. You can't trust
But we
anything.
have a little bit more accuracy.
Yeah.
We have maybe a perceived more accuracy of things, records of things, and things that how we went down, and we have multiple sources and stuff like that. I think that, like in those old times, you had no choice but to embellish. I mean, it was too tempting.
Mm.
But now, if we're telling a story that we do know something about, I think that there's nothing wrong with actually fucking including some of that fucking information, you know. And just, I think that the way that they just do it is like, okay, they instantly they steal the idea, they steal what's special about it, they gut it, and then they fucking
And then they fuck it.
And they fucking
they fucking lather it with fucking sugar and spice and everything nice, and for your enjoyment.
Yeah, I mean, like it comes down to, yes, the filmmakers do have a little bit of responsibility if you're going to put that tag in front of the movie, but you should
I would agree.
you should also expect criticism and give me something entertaining. But I think even if it's wildly inaccurate, if it gets you thinking, if it gets you talking, if it gets you questioning, I think that's all part of these
What if
movies.
they just put this? We got the idea from a real thing, but this is all bullshit. Enjoy the
We
movie.
made all this shit up. Well, that's inspired by true events. You can we do all sorts of leeway with inspire. Just don't go based on.
I feel like that they don't, like, the minute like dumb people see that, they don't understand what that means. So,
Good topic, Anthony. But I have a question, Anthony.
My balls was hot.
Uh-oh.
Your balls hot?
I mean,
what a segue.
What? You know, they would be really warm,
Yeah.
especially with the rise in temperature. Although it's supposed to be cool in Chicago this weekend. But I own some Manscaped products.
Oh,
Do
you
you?
do. I
Yeah.
do too. We got to give a shout out to our awesome sponsor this month. It is Manscaped, who offer these great trimmers to keep your jewels all nice and tidy, to keep your Frankenbeans looking great. If you go to manscaped.com, you will get 20% off and free shipping with the code Jock and Nerd.
Jock and Nerd.
Anthony, we have received our packages.
Oh,
Special Manscaped packages. So I want to real quickly talk about the latest thing that came out. They have sent us the Lawnmower 3.0.
I didn't think it could get any better than the 2.0.
I know. Let me tell you, I'm going to grab it right now. You got to
Are
come.
you really grabbing
Wait, what the?
I am. Look,
your balls or the thing?
both. I got
The
one hand on the
lawnmower.
balls, one hand on this awesome trimmer. But Anthony, until you stop by and get your package, I just want to shout out to Manscaped. This Lawnmower 3.0 is really nice. It's got what they call advanced skin safe technology. The motor is a 7,000 RPM motor. The battery life is better. It has a charging dock now that you put down in
Wow.
a little thing. The grip, before it was like a nice matte grip. Now it's a diamond textured grip. Feels great. And there is a light on it, when you press, there's an LED light. It's also waterproof. So that means in a power outage in the shower, you can
see your balls.
You can trim your shit up. Absolutely. Rugs, we don't have one for you because they don't have a blade that cuts cotton, unfortunately.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's not going to work. So, but this month, again, if you go to manscaped.com, use promo code Jock and Nerd, you will get 20% off, free shipping on all their awesome products, and you're going to make us look good, listener. Make us look good to Manscaped this month, and they will extend the sponsorship, and your balls will thank you. Anthony, are you excited about getting the 3.0 here?
You know, I didn't realize we needed the 3.0 until you made that hard sell, and now I'm like, what have I been doing my whole life without the 3.0?
You're also getting a nice Manscaped t-shirt, and the package includes a travel thing and the ball deodorant and all that fun stuff.
I feel like jumping through my window like 80s action style to just go get this.
I'm coming now.
Yeah. Just do
I
like
fucking
a forward
loved it.
roll.
Yes.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
just feel like that. I'm glad that there's a company that's thinking about my balls.
Yes, it's very important. Dude, even though you're not out dating, going to clubs, you can't let that shit get all crazy. You got to keep that shit in check.
It's like the idea of when you work from home, you should still get up and like get ready for work.
Yeah, no, I've been wearing the same fucking sweats for like 6 weeks now.
Oh, shit.
Because why should I wear something else? You tell me a reason. Anyways, more next week.
He'll shave his balls and put those sweats back.
I will. I'll shave my balls, put the same shit. I'm not just fucking, it's just convenient. But more about that as Anthony gets the package. You'll hear more. Let's take a quick break here. And we're going to come back and do another awesome listener-sponsored movie review right after this.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
If you're looking for a sports hosting show that gives you the flavor.
Tom Brady, thrown for over 60,000 yards, the most playoff victories, the most Super Bowls, the most Super Bowl MVPs. He is not the greatest of all time.
That brings the energy. Shaq quote, "The earth is flat," close quote.
The earth is round.
That isn't about
this or that. It ain't this or that. Charles Barkley, 1994. You stole 2 home games in the Western Conference semifinals against the Rockets. Your team blows it in 7. 1 year later, up 3 games to 1. 2 games at home, and you blow that too.
Then you've come to the right place.
I am that man, your man, the illustrious tour guide Cole Johnson.
Cole Sports. On Cole Sports with the Z.com.
Hi, everybody. I'm RJ Metzger.
And I'm Rachel Metzger.
And we're the Skeptical Skeptics.
Each week we talk about all the crazy things in the world, ranging from the paranormal to Bigfoot to UFOs.
And we look at it from the perspective of the believer, the skeptic, and everything in between.
So come check us out on the MSC Podcast Network.
Or go to skepticalskeptics.com and follow us at SkepSkepPod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
And
Listener, if you're enjoying the show, join our cool fan club. Visit jockandnerd.com/Patreon. It's like Jock and Nerd Plus Max Premium. There's tiers, there's swag. Everyone gets bonus content and early access to the shows in an exclusive RSS podcast feed just for you. Continuing to put out Corona Binge Reports, which are real quick movie reviews, mostly by Anthony. Anthony, you got another great list of movies that you put out this week.
Let's see here. Did you write them down for me?
I did write them down because I know you don't remember or like to think of things.
Yeah,
and it's just
I
easier.
did Taxi Driver.
Yes.
Braveheart, Argo, Social Network, and Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
Really?
God damn, I can't believe
Oh, shit.
you finally watched Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Did I watch anything? I watched Fast Color.
Yeah, is that worth a Corona Binge report?
No.
Check all those out when you sign up.
I mean, it wasn't horrible, but
It's okay. It was on lists of like great superhero movies,
No,
comic book
it's
movies, and
not.
I tried to watch it, and I don't even remember what the fuck I was watching.
it's incredibly
It
boring.
was a little slow.
I'll tease you guys and I'll tease the audience.
Yes.
I have an idea for Pulp Fiction
Oh, God.
next week.
Oh my God,
Oh,
I
shit.
can't wait because I could talk about Pulp Fiction all day, son.
So there you go.
Date. That's
I might have to watch it again.
And for what it's worth, Imran, I did like it. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I did like it.
Gotcha. No, I can't wait. Great tease for next episode for the listener. Also, if you give us $10 or more a month, you get another awesome bonus thing you could do, which is to pick any movie to force us to watch and review on the show.
Talking nerd.
That's a lot of fun. We've been rolling through a lot of these. We've done, I think we're like up to like 28 or 30. And we're going to do one right now. So sign up, jockandnerd.com/Patreon. This week's movie is Kingsman, The Secret Service from 2014. Here is your spoiler alert.
Manners maketh man. Do you know what that means? Then let me teach you a lesson. Are we going to stand around here all day? Or are we going to fight?
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
Sponsored by, dedicated to listener, Patreon supporter, Mark Bunanang. This is his second pick. This is his second pick because if you support us for $10 a month for more than a year, you get to pick another movie. His first one we did way back in 2018. It was The Crow, which was a great review, great movie. And super thanks to Mark for being a patron for 26 months.
Talking nerd. Oh, shit.
Love to have you there. Kingsman, The Secret Service on Rotten Tomatoes, sitting at a 74% tomato meter, average rating 6.7 out of 10 in the box office. This movie was made for, what was the budget here? About $81 million. I've seen anywhere from like 80 to 90.
Whoa.
80 million, R-rated. And it finishes its worldwide box office $414 million.
Oh, shit.
So pretty successful in
They made a pretty penny.
They made a pretty penny. It's got an 84% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie is based on Dave Gibbons and Mark Millar's 2012 comic book series, also called Kingsman, The Secret Service. Yeah. And Rex, we've talked about how Mark Millar basically writes short series is in the hopes that they're just going to get adapted into TV shows and movies. Yeah. And this is an example of that. It is directed by Matthew Vaughn. We all know Matthew Vaughn. Anthony, can you name some other Matthew Vaughn movies?
Kick-Ass.
That's one.
X-Men First Class.
Those are probably his two best movies, along with he started out with Layer Cake as I hear is
I like Matthew
good.
Vaughn.
I like Matthew Vaughn as a director and Stardust. Also starring Colin Firth, Mark Strong, Jack Davenport, Samuel Jackson's in this. Mark Hamill has a cameo. Taron Egerton, Sophia Boutella, Michael Caine, and a bunch of other great supporting cast.
You have to say Michael Caine.
I'm Michael Caine.
Yeah.
Well, Master Wayne, why are you always trying to kill yourself?
Shoot the dog.
Shoot the dog. Anthony, this is the first time you have seen this movie?
It is.
Okay, interesting. Why don't you give us the Jock recap plot synopsis here?
Sure. It's basically Matthew Vaughn's tribute to the British spy genre.
The Bond films.
Mixed with superhero films. It's just the basic plot is there's this secret organization of well-dressed gentlemen that protect the world, and there's a new enemy with Samuel L. Jackson that's trying to destroy the world, and Colin Firth recruits this kid played by Edgerton kid.
Yeah, Taron Egerton.
Aaron Egerton, whose dad was a Kingsman and died in service and saved Colin Firth, so Colin Firth kind of feels like he owes this kid to be his mentor.
Eggsy.
And that's it.
Yes, and Eggsy obviously isn't quite as polished as the rest of the recruits, but there's also, of course, if you're going to do a Bond movie, you're going to have a wild bad guy and a whole plot to take down society, which they fight during this as everyone's training and getting picked. Ruggs, you've seen this before, right?
Yeah, this is like the second or third time I've seen it.
So, you know what? I'm going to start with the opening thoughts because this may surprise you guys a little bit. I've seen this movie, and I watched it again recently, and by all intents and purposes, I should love this movie. It's got action. It looks great. It's based on a comic book. But watching it again, I remembered, I don't necessarily like this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. But I don't like it. There was something about it that I just didn't connect with me. It wasn't memorable. And watching it again, I was like, why don't I like this movie? And I came up with some points I'll get into. The movie definitely has merit on, the performances, the way it looks, the way it's shot. But overall, it's just too much of a mash of tones, and I don't think the bad guy works. And I'm like, no, I don't care for this. And that would surprise me because I love X-Men First Class, and I like Kick-Ass, and I like Matthew Vaughn. I like some of Mark Millar's work. It's just, it seemed a lot of this works better in the comic and not in the movie. I'm really being honest.
Wow.
Yeah, this movie, I don't get it. It just didn't connect with me. Anthony, what did you think first time watching this movie?
First off, I like Matthew Vaughn, and I thought this was really good. I thought it was pretty solid. It's for me, it's the perfect blend. Not perfect, but it's a really good blend of what would seem like a really cheesy movie, but just the way he stylizes the action, just the nature of the Kingsmen, the fact that for whatever reason, it cracked me the hell up. Samuel L. Jackson has a lisp. It's just, and the bad guy having the legs, it's a weird mix of things, but for me, everything kind of was good. I feel like Matthew Vaughn, Kick-Ass is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
I liked First Class. I think he does a really good job of mixing weird things in superhero films and coming out with a product that is digestible for a lot of people.
That's interesting.
I mean, I think a lot of this rests on the shoulders of Mark Millar.
Yeah.
Who wrote Kick-Ass, who wrote Kingsman, which actually was called The Secret Service when it came out as a comic book. But he writes these comics, as these 4 or 5 issue things, and then they take on, and then all of a sudden they're adapted into movies. And I think he's worked with Vaughn before, so they vibe together. They get the vibe. Yeah. So, and they've made Kick-Ass an enjoyable film that's quirky. And this is also an enjoyable, quirky film.
Ruggs, what are your opening thoughts? Can you get where I'm coming from though? Why the movie didn't quite hit?
This is not. I mean, I guess this is also to be blamed Mark Millar for, because a lot of this shit's half baked.
Yeah,
when you make a 5-issue movie pitch into a comic book. You don't really develop anything to a degree, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So everything feels half-baked, and this movie feels half-baked.
It's just the pitch of the story and not the fleshed-out story.
Well, I feel like that I think they tried to, bake it when they made the movie, Matthew Vaughn's okay, we're gonna have to work this out, or do this, do that, do that. The graphic novel has, it's basically, they call out a lot of celebrities, and it's very, poking fun at celebrities and stuff like that. And because the bad guy's trying to take all of these so-called high class people, celebrities, people like that, preserve them. So there's a lot of jokes with that.
They're all kidnapped
not in this movie.
Yeah, well, they're all kidnapped. He's got Iggy Azalea in the basement there, and some other you see on the TV.
So they toned that down.
Yeah,
that comedic aspect of it, they toned that down a little bit, and they kind of concentrated more on Eggsy and his uncle.
See,
not his uncle in the movie, but it's Colin Firth.
Oh, Colin Firth is his uncle in the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I enjoyed it when I went to the theater. I didn't think it was the best movie I've ever seen. I just thought, hey, that was a fun little movie. I thought the ending was a little bit meh, but I watched it another time, just kind of it was on, and I was just fucking hanging out, and I let it play. And then I watched it again with purpose to review it today. So, I had the same experience. I enjoyed some of the parts and thought it was an okay movie, but I feel like it's missing a little bit of something, but like I feel like it's
I mean,
enjoyable.
I'm so torn. It is fun, but then there's parts that just bug the shit out of me. But there's stuff in this movie that's amazing. Anthony, like I think we could just jump to the fucking church slaughter scene.
It's great. I mean that scene right there. Although it's cartoonish, but for me it's cartoonish in like all the right ways.
Yeah, it works. All his shaky cam. It's a long take, but his like drop frames and the choreographed action and the super violence and the whole thing. Like it's the Westboro Baptist Church and they're playing Freebird. Like it's a 3-minute fucking slaughter scene. It's like as an homage to like a Tarantino. It's fucking amazing.
It's an absurd scene with like women getting axed in the head in a church. Like,
I mean, I love he takes the gun apart and then just shoves it in the guy's neck because he's out of bullets and there's hands getting sliced off and holy shit. So that I loved.
But I feel like after that scene, everything else is like a letdown.
I think there's like too much violence. Like after a while, it gets exhausting and it loses its meaning. And just right in the beginning, when Sofia Boutella slices that dude clean in the middle, I'm like, okay, was this a cartoon? Like, what is this? Like, I get you're spoofing the James Bond spy genre, but that genre is already kind of cartoonish, isn't it? You're fucking adding another cartoon
for me, it worked. I don't know. I thought about this. I was like, any other guy, I would have been like, this is just too cartoonish for me. But for me, within this context, it felt like a hyper weird reality, and I was just fully on board.
I mean, I like the Boutella with the Oscar Pistorius fucking deadly sliced legs blades. Like that was fucking dope.
That was a gender swap.
Oh, that's a person in the book, huh?
Yeah.
You mean a man?
A person. I said it's a person. I mean a human male person. It's not a.
We all know
a woman is not a person.
A woman is not a person according to Imran.
What I meant.
Let's note this now.
What? Please don't isolate that audio.
That's a big fuck up right there.
More good stuff. I love in the beginning, like the opening credits where the debris is crumbling into the credits. Like I thought that was clever. And like Colin Firth, Michael Caine, Mark Strong. I do love them in this movie. They are great, especially Colin
another
Firth.
thing I liked is I don't watch a ton of movies that have been made and released in the UK. So for me, it was kind of like fun, not released in the UK, but made and with a UK edge. I found it fun, like the slang between the people. Everyone calling each other bruv.
What's up,
I don't know. The whole thing for me, I was just like, I don't normally watch this stuff.
I thought you hate British shit.
You need to watch yourself some Skins, my friend.
I thought you hated British dramas. Remember, you were like, I don't like. That's why you didn't like Black Mirror. You're like, I don't like British things.
Yeah, but that was before I became a woke cinephile Anthony.
This is a whole new Anthony. This is the Corona.
Right.
This is post-Corona.
That's why I did laugh. My favorite line is where he goes, "Are you fucking taking the piss?" Like that shit. I love how they talk, and it was great hearing all the accents.
I laughed. I don't know why. Maybe this isn't supposed to be funny, but I laughed every time Samuel Jackson's lisp came out. I don't know why.
Okay, for me, let's talk about fucking Sam Jackson. This ruins the whole fucking movie. I didn't get this bad guy. His plan was confusing. I don't think the lisp works. It's super cringy. I just think the whole bad guy is just written completely wrong. Like he's not menacing, but he's not supposed to be. I don't think it works.
I was just happy that the bad guy wasn't some guy that fucking grew up with the kid when he was a child.
Well, he's not tied. Yeah, it's not tied to.
Into. Like, I was just happy that the guy was just a bad guy.
Yeah,
and they had no other than the fact that they're in a secret service and they have to fucking do something about this dude. There's no relation. I like that.
I liked the bad guy because he reminded me of Dr. Evil.
But that movie, I love the Austin Powers movie. It's clearly in its genre of comedy spoof. This thing is all over the place. Doesn't really know what kind of tone it wants to give.
I think this is a tribute to the British spy films, but played as a comedy.
That's what Austin Powers is, though, and they do it a lot better. Like, that's a parody.
I think that
this is an homage, I guess. Yeah.
What this is supposed to be is like a retell or a new version of the Knights of the Round Table,
right? Because they go by the names.
They use the spy thing and superheroes tropes and stuff to kind of like create this thing, and it's supposed to be like a new Like you got MI6, you got this, you got that. You
Independent.
Got the
They're independent. They don't work for any government.
You got Sherlock Holmes. This is going to be a new staple, like the Kingsmen. You know,
it is funny that they're tailors. Like I was like, why are they tailors? I guess why not? It's fucking crazy. What I did like that underwater scene where their fucking bunkers fill up with water. That was pretty well done, and I saw a little bit about that. And Matthew Vaughn said that was all real. They built a set that would get lowered into a tank, and on one take, the computer was supposed to go slowly, a few feet at a time, and then they would do their lines. They come up for air. They do not. The thing went all the way down. So some of the fear you see in those guys underwater is fucking real because the computer fucked up and dropped them like real quick.
I would imagine they all died.
Yeah,
anyway.
no.
That'd be fucking terrible. One of the things that I think is weird about this, and that kind of just takes a little bit away, is the fact that Eggsy's a Mary Sue.
Yeah, yes,
he's already good at it.
Yeah, that's true.
So I feel like that if I'm gonna fucking criticize Mary Sue's in general, you gotta fucking call this one out as well because he's already good at everything.
Does the gymnastics thing translate to like, oh, he could do parkour now, and then at the end he never reloads his fucking gun. He's just shooting for fucking 5 minutes.
He is really good at everything.
I feel like so. Yeah, that's a big problem. And the fact that he's good at everything and he still has got these problems with these fucking idiot guys that are fucking his mom. Like
that was weird.
That was weird.
They were doing a
I feel like
threesome.
if he was more of a fucking sap, it would make more sense. So I think that they fucked up that there.
What about
I could see that.
Taron Egerton as his performance? What do you guys think of him as in this role?
He's fine.
Yeah, I thought he had decent physical presence or physical charisma. I wouldn't say I was blown away by his performance.
I thought he was kind of bland. Like I didn't connect with him. I didn't care about him. I did see him in the Elton John movie Rocket Man. He's really good in that movie. Like the guy,
he's like supposed to be a chav.
A chav? What's that?
Yeah,
a chav is like a British dude who wears like basically like when you're poor but you dress like you're like yuppie, just to like project the image of being.
I never heard that.
Yeah. It's like kind of like hip hop-ish.
Okay.
You know? But like so in the British they call them chavs. And
What's up,
so
bro?
he's supposed to be a chav, so he doesn't really talk like one.
Yeah.
He doesn't really act like one. Like if you want to like Ali G is a chav.
Yeah.
You know, like so like he doesn't really do that enough. But it'd be interesting if he did that more.
I did read this interesting point in one of the reviews for this movie that it's the spy genre version of the movie Scream. You know how in Scream, all the characters knew they knew all the horror movie cliches, and they were playing to that. The same thing happens. Like all these characters have watched the Bond movies, they know about Jack Bauer and all the spies, and it's very meta. So the meta-ness was kind of nice.
Oh yeah, at one point they were talking about the dog. You name it JB.
Yeah,
what is it, James Bond?
Yeah, there's a bunch of JB spy names. James Bond. What's the other one? And then he goes, no,
James Bourne.
Jason Bourne.
Jason.
And he
Bourne.
goes, no. Jack Bauer.
I really liked. I liked all the old guy, like the old actors that were like. I liked Alfred Kane is in it.
Yeah,
Mark
Michael
Strong,
Caine's great.
Colin Firth,
Yeah.
and you got Samuel Jackson. Like I don't know, it added a degree of credence to everything that was going on.
You guys like that the movie ends with anal sex?
Oh, I loved it.
That was a great. Like there are points where he just subverts things and he does the unexpected. That and then killing Colin Firth when they did. I was like, oh fuck.
I mean the anal sex thing is literally from when in Kick-Ass. I don't know if it's credited to Mark Millar or Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where he's making out with Kick-Ass is making out with the girl, and then they just linger on him like, "Can I touch your boobs?" And he just starts grabbing her boobs and touching, and they linger on that for like 10 seconds.
That's right. Ruggs, do you like the action scenes that were shot with the drop frames and the real stuttery frame rate and all that? Did you enjoy that?
I think it's fine. I mean, it makes it more cartoony. And it works in this film. I don't think it would work in a realistic film.
I feel like he wants to use violence like Tarantino uses violence, but when Tarantino does it, there's a reason, a buildup, and this was just all style, no substance.
When you see Tarantino violence, you go, holy shit.
Well, a lot of this reminded me of that.
This is more like you're laughing.
Yeah. Like
you're laughing.
The end
I mean, you're like you're having a good time.
It is not meant to be like Tarantino. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Imran, but the first one of the first big deaths, the guy cuts him right in half. Like the girl cuts her right in half, and he like
it just slides
folds
apart.
up like he's an envelope.
He slides apart like a cartoon, and then like the flying slow-mo shot in the last fucking battle between Eggsy and Sophia Boutella. I was like, what is this? Oh my god!
It's just a different. I don't think it's comparable. I think it's a different style.
But then they go to another level. A lot of people like the last thing, which is the firework head explosions. But that to me was the last fucking straw. I was like, no.
I also
what is
agree
this?
with
Fuck,
that.
What?
I agree with that. I think that was that. That's why I didn't like the ending.
Yeah,
I think that. I think the whole ending of the movie was a letdown.
Yeah,
I feel like everything up until the ending was actually working really well, and even that fight between Sophia Boutella and Eggsy was okay. It was to the exploding heads and the fact that everything was like this one hallway. They just kept shooting each other in.
Then he hits everyone. Nobody's hitting him. He's just standing in the doorway. There's dozens of guards.
I feel like they could have been a better. If they're gonna, I don't know if that's what they did in the comic. I don't remember.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
That was the set piece or not. But
it was a little too convenient, a little lazy, and I was like, it looked pretty, like it was visually interesting. But I'm like, what is this movie? I don't get it. Like it's too fucking cartoony. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they could have gone a different direction and probably got more mileage out of it.
Have you seen? So they made a sequel, The Golden Circle.
I can see it.
Have you seen it?
I have not seen it.
Because fucking spoilers. Well, if you've seen the trailer, fucking Colin Firth, Galahad is in the movie. He's back, and I'm dying to know. I guess I could look it up. I'm not watching it. Like I don't care. I don't care about this franchise that they're trying to
I'm
do.
impressed that you actually have a movie that you feel this strongly that you dislike.
Because I remember when we picked this, and I was like, I remember not really digging this movie. Let's see it again. And I'm like, yep. I can't. I'm not on board with this movie.
I can see your point. Like there's a lot of stuff on here where if you're not fully on board, like there's a lot of elements
not in
there.
it.
There's no Spider-Man in it. Absolutely.
Spider-Man's not in it. Tarantino didn't write or directed. Yeah, I know.
It's just, it seems so derivative.
Kevin Smith isn't
I've
the
seen
mentor.
all
I know.
these things, and I don't know. Like, I get it's fun, I get it, but it's just not. It's not for me. I was surprised. I'm like, nah. I still the same for me. I don't dig it.
Good for you.
Sorry. All right. Well, let's rate the fucking movie then. Ruggs, what do you give it?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a 6.5 for me.
Okay.
I feel like it's enjoyable. It's a movie. As a beginning and in the middle, people showed up and they did their jobs. Yeah. The directing was fine. With respect to the source material, it wasn't dead on, but it was. You get the gist of it. It's pretty close. They swapped out a few things here and there, but overall, it wasn't a left turn or anything like that. So 6.5.
Okay, Anthony, number.
I'm gonna go 7.
Oh shit!
But I'll give it the caveat that it's out of the 3 Matthew Vaughn films, this is my least favorite. I like Kick-Ass and First Class better.
All right. Well, look, it looks great. The visuals it's a fun movie to watch, but the whole package for me still just fucking bugs me. I was gonna give it a 6, maybe a 5.75.
Okay.
5.75. I should have liked this, and like it's something.
This is a new Imran the Contrarian.
I'm like, no.
So you're woke and well versed in film, and Imran is now the Contrarian.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do? I have to do something new.
You gotta switch it up.
You gotta transform into like a different creature. Boy rug or something. I don't know. We'll have to think about this.
A rug man. But Mark Bunong, thanks for picking this movie. And if you like it, I'm sorry. I can understand why people like it, but great pick.
Mark Bunong.
All right, let's do a little news from the nation. It's time for news from the nation. It's time for news from the nation. Tasty. I got a couple of messages here sent by some of our listeners, starting with David Milofsky, who sent me a message saying, can I sponsor a review of Brick? I feel like you guys all need to see Rian Johnson firing on all cylinders.
Seen it.
And understand that Knives Out is the rule and Looper and Last Jedi are the exceptions. Brick is Rian Johnson's first movie.
Yeah.
You can sponsor a review. Of course, David Malofsky. Just, you know what to do. What do you think, Anthony? Would you be interested, now that we've seen all these Rian Johnson movies, to see his first film?
Brick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd watch Brick.
I know Delhauer loves that movie. He's.
I saw it and I don't remember anything.
You don't remember if it's good?
I'm telling you, I'm a new person. You throw a movie in front of me.
This is amazing.
I probably will like it, and I will be more than eager to watch it.
We're all in. Malofsky, hit that PayPal button, send a donation. We'll get it done.
Unless it's Cannibal Holocaust, I'm not watching.
You're not watching that one? You got to draw the line somewhere. Huh?
Someone asked you to watch that?
No, I was fucking around.
Jimmy Graven sent us an email. He says, hey, fellas, I'm taking it back 4 years to the email days. Even though I don't email as often as I used to, rest assured, I'm still listening every week, loving the content. You guys are kicking ass. Kicking nerd. Just some tidbits for each of you. Really want to hear Anthony's recap of The Last Dance. He and I have talked about those Chicago Bulls teams since we grew up in that era. Can't wait to hear it from the perspective of a Chicago kid who lived through that era. Would love to hear your thoughts, man. We'll pause for comments. Anthony?
You know, I don't have like extensive thoughts because I've just kind of been, it's not like something I've been watching and analyzing. It's just more I've been living in the moment, reliving some memories, and then also learning about things that I wasn't having a fully functioned brain to remember.
Yeah.
Like the early 90s Bulls, I don't really know about. The late 90s Bulls, I know a lot about, but some of the story, like the Rodman stuff, all that stuff is really interesting.
Yeah.
If the biggest thing for me is it's just unbelievable the stuff that went on then that would never happen now, such as Rodman going on vacation, the GM just breaking up a dynasty, Pippen being like super underpaid, like all these little things that I'm just like, wow, it's just a completely different era. But I'm thoroughly enjoying The Last Dance.
Maybe do like a jock talk when it's all over.
Perhaps.
The last two episodes were great. The bit about how hard it was to be Michael Jordan, where you literally could not be alone ever. Like everywhere you step out, there's just mobs of people. Seemed like a nightmare. Wait, let me ask you this real quick. Did you hear Ken Burns' comments about The Last Dance? Did we talk about
Mr.
this?
Burns from The Simpsons?
Yes, exactly. Excellent. No, documentarian Ken Burns. I don't know if we mentioned this. The guy who's done the Civil War, the Vietnam documentary. He says it's bad journalism, The Last Dance, because Michael Jordan is producing it.
Oh, shit.
So he was fucking talking shit. But Jordan seems very honest in this at the same time.
What I would say is if he's got a problem with it, why doesn't he make a bunch of money and produce his own shit?
You make your own Bulls documentary.
I mean, it's one thing, at least from the horse's mouth, at least you have some kind of direct. Yeah, I'm sure it's skewed.
Yeah.
I don't think just making shit up.
No, and I think Jordan...
Probably coloring it in his favor.
Well, you would think, but there are things that don't make him look the greatest also that he reveals. So
yeah, I mean, the last one, of course it's biased. It's short, if he's producing it. But he did include in the last one that, like, his comment about Republicans buy sneakers too, which makes him look like an awful human being.
Yes.
Not awful, but it just, in this culture, people would be like, you can't, like, he included in there that he didn't even take a stand and like help this like civil rights issue that was going on, because he was more thinking about his own shoe and the viability of the finances behind it.
And there was the whole gambling bit that
so none of that makes him look great.
I love that. He was like, look, I like gambling. And I don't have a problem. I just like gambling, while he's wearing sunglasses looking all shady.
Yeah. I mean, they also include a thing where he's like compared to Ali, and they're basically saying Ali is a greater person to remember because at least he took a stand.
I just think he was probably sitting on all this footage and had it shot, so he had to produce it. Okay, moving on. Jimmy Graven says, also excited to hear Rugboy break down the latest season of Westworld. Really great sci-fi mindbender in the vein of Christopher Nolan. His brother Jonathan co-created the show. Ruggs, you'll definitely want to see the new season of Better Call Saul. Such an underrated show, and it's one of the best on TV right now.
I'm about halfway through Better Call Saul.
Give us some quick spoiler-free thoughts on that finale of Westworld there, Ruggs.
Well, I need to like rewatch it because I feel like it was so abrupt. I think I couldn't get a handle on exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the basis is that okay? So they create the hosts, the robots, and they become self-aware, and then they use the park and the robots in this weird twist to study humans, because the end game I thought was to have immortality. So like I thought that the idea was that they could take human beings and put them in the host bodies and they could live forever, right? You can copy someone's essence into the computer, download them into this body that never ages, and then you have immortality. But then in the show, you realize that they can't do that without going insane, and then it's never been done properly. So then they had to go to this other method where they said, well, maybe we can't use it for immortality, but maybe we can use it to edit people. So like edit people's sicknesses, edit people from their thoughts, and create like a more, I guess, a better society, because we can edit a program and we can fix the problems and patch programs. Why can't we patch people? Because now we understand the information how to make people work. And that's all interesting and all that stuff. But the way it played out was weird. And they had these all-knowing computers that kind of knew everything, and that were based. And it was just kind of like there was a lot of things thrown, and they should have just economized it a little bit. I think that having two separate computers that were omniscient was like a little.
Oh yeah,
too
it was
much.
a little confusing. It was a crazy ending, to be sure. I also thought Bernard's whole thing, I don't know what the fuck he was doing. Like that was kind of all, I don't know, tacked on. But again, spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
The craziest thing to me is that the Dolores' plan, their plans just got all fucked up. I didn't see any of that coming. Major characters die, and I was like, "Whoa, shit!
Oh shit!
That's pretty crazy." So,
I do think it asks a lot of great questions, and the action in it was actually pretty fun.
The action was great. A lot of big reveals.
And, very high value, production value for everything.
Of course.
So it's definitely enjoyable, and the acting is great. So, I mean, yeah, it's one of the things you should watch, even though I just ruined it for you.
We said spoilers. Okay, moving on. Imran, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming back at the end of the month.
Geek boner.
Are you ready for the final season? Hoping you'll recap the season premiere and make those two watch it.
Oh, no.
Remember, I forgot all about this. They got one last season 7. It premieres May 27th. I think it's a half season. This show is still on the air. It's been on the air for like 7 years. So I'm excited. Do you guys even care? Do I have to force you to watch this?
I could do the opening episode.
Okay. It's going to be confusing if you haven't watched it, because it's kind of like Legends of Tomorrow, and they've traveled back to the 30s.
Oh, no.
Oh shit!
But yes, before, and it's all crazy. But I'm going to watch. I'll be there. I miss those guys. And then he says, one suggestion for you all to watch is Succession on HBO. Show is outstanding.
I watched the first couple episodes. It was interesting.
I've been meaning to watch this. Everyone says it's a fucking great show. Jimmy Graben finishes, okay, that's enough for me. Take care, guys. Stay safe and healthy. Jimmy the Geek.
Talking nerd.
Thanks for writing in, Jimmy. Let's do some quick what are we watching, and we'll wrap it up. I got 2 good things, but does anybody else want to start? Anthony, you got anything else you've been watching outside all those movies?
Just going to be more movies. I mean, The Last Dance, more movies, and literally every day it changes as far as what I'm going to watch. So I'm not even going to give any hints.
That's exciting.
Because I don't really know. Sometimes I go into a day and I'm like, I know I'm going to watch this. And sometimes I'm just like, we'll see what happens.
Sometimes I am so envious of your position. I can't imagine like having all these classic movies and watching them for the first time. In some cases, I'm disappointed with your reaction because you are watching them for the first time, which I think we will get into next episode a little bit.
Yeah.
But I get it. So, Ruggs, you got anything?
What am I watching?
Yeah, anything you watched you want to turn people on?
God.
I like that he asked that question as if we've never asked that question.
Yes,
on
it's
the
like
show
it's not in the notes right in front of you. We haven't done this ever.
I'm watching Dumb, which is a documentary on Big Brother, which was a skate magazine in the late in the 90s.
Oh.
And it came out in 2017, and I've seen it before, but I think I was so fucking stoned I don't remember.
That sounds interesting.
So I'm watching it again, and I fucking love it because this is the genesis of Jackass. This is where Jackass came from. I used to read Big Brother because when I was a kid, I tried to skate. I tried to be a skateboarder. I was a BMX biker, and then I tried to skate for a while. It was not good. Not coordinated.
Lame.
And but I wanted to skate so bad, so I was a poser.
Yeah.
So I went, and one of the things that I did was I read Big Brother. That was how I.
Did you have the clothes and the shoes and everything?
I had the giant
pants.
pants.
Yes, you had the giant. Oh boy. Oh
yeah, I had the giant pants.
Not funny.
For what it's worth, I still wear Vans. So
all right, well, but they're kind of stylish now.
But Big Brother was this magazine that came out, and basically a guy just made it to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like he made this. I'm making a magazine. I'm just gonna fucking hire like asshole guys, and we're just gonna fucking be. And that's how Jackass came about.
Wait, it's called Dumb. What is it on?
It's on. I believe it's on Hulu. Okay. Jeff Tremaine, who the guy who does Jackass, Spike Jones was involved with Big Brother. Rob Dyrdek. So like all these guys that were skaters in street skaters. It's fucking hilarious. Like I learned so much about sex from Big Brother. I learned about fucking drugs from Big Brother. I learned about fucking just obnoxious, stupid shit you could do, like lighting shit on fire, like from Big Brother. It was a magazine. It was so irreverent, and I'm thankful that I was one of the people that got to experience it before it went away and became Jackass.
It sounds like a good documentary. I probably would enjoy that. I may check it out.
You might love it.
I like stuff like that. I have two great things on Amazon. There's a new series just released called Upload. It's about 8 episodes. It stars Robbie Amell. Don't let that discourage you, because he's actually pretty good at this. Basically, it takes place in the near future, and it's about how in the future you can upload your consciousness to an afterlife that looks like a resort, or basically whatever social class, however money you have, you get it put into the better resort. So Robbie Amell in the first episode gets in an accident. His girlfriend uploads him to this resort, and she kind of owns him. So everybody in the resort has a real life angel that comes in VR. That's like your customer service rep. So there's a little murder mystery. There's some fun sci-fi stuff, but then the romance between Robbie Amell and the girl playing the lead, his customer service rep, was really good. That romance actually is it's a very great storyline. So it's a quick watch. It's fun. It's kind of sci-fi. I enjoyed it. Robbie Amell, not bad. And then the other thing I watched that had me fucking rolling in tears, my sister suggested, it's called Middle Ditch and Schwartz on Netflix, featuring Ben Schwartz, that you may know from Parks and Rec, John Ralphio, and Thomas Middleditch, who Rugboy is Richard from Silicon Valley.
That's right.
These guys are incredible at improv. It's 3 episodes, and basically it's a stage show. They take the first 15 minutes talking to the audience. They get to know someone and a situation and characters. And then for 40 minutes, they make up this entire fucking sketch, and the shit ties back, and they got callbacks, and they're fucking genius at it. Improv is a hit or miss thing. I know a lot of people, like Anthony, you watched that movie that was all improv. You have to be really good at it to pull it off. These 2 guys in these 3 episodes, I was fucking on the ground dying of laughter. My sides hurt. I had tears. If you're looking for a good laugh right now, check out Middle Ditch and Schwartz. Would you, Anthony, do you enjoy comedy stuff like that?
Yeah, I love comedy.
And again, it's good improv. Improv's not always great.
I mean, I enjoy a Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is not as improv-y as it could be. But
well, then you got the Spinal Tap guys and Best in Show.
Well, I mean, I was a big fan of The League, and that was a lot of improv.
That was a lot of
comedy.
improv. Yeah. Yeah, that's when you see all those guys, they do it real good. And Thomas Middleditch, Ben Schwartz, fucking amazing. Check it out on Netflix. All right, that's it. Ruggs, where can the listener find you online?
You can find me at Twitter at Really Bug Boy. So just come by and say what's up.
Was that Belly Bug Boy? At Belly Bug Boy?
Really Rug Boy.
Okay, there you go. Jogging Nerd. Check out the show notes for this episode, joggingnerd.com/327, where you can find links to give us an Apple Podcast rating, to subscribe, to get in touch, to support the show, and links to all the bullshit we talked about. Subscribe, tell a friend, spread the geekery, listener. You will have our eternal thanks. Thanks for listening to the Jock and Nerd Podcast. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the Jock.
He's a nerd.
We'll peep you next time.
I fucking loved it.
Their bottom is very weak.
My balls was hot.
My balls are cold.
My balls was hot.
My balls are warm.
I love this
movie.